Welcome to the Senior Safety Advice Podcast, your trusted source for expert guidance on aging safely and independently. Whether you're a caregiver, a family member, or a senior looking to stay secure at home and beyond, we've got you covered. From fall prevention and home modifications to financial safety and scam awareness, we provide practical tips to help you or your loved ones live with confidence. Tune in and empower yourself with the knowledge you need to navigate the challenges of aging. Let's make safety simple.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Welcome so much to another podcast. This is going to actually be broadcast on seniorsafetyadvice.com and on Aging in Place directory, as well as the adjoining YouTube channels as well. But I'm so happy to have been introduced and to have found and to be connected with Shari Ross. She's a freelance corporate travel director, actually, but she is the author of Senior Living Made Simple. And I got to tell you, I read a lot of books. Well, y'all know I read a lot of books, but a lot of books on aging in place. And what this book is, I think, is such a great way to start, a great simple explanation of everything that you need to do to know, and not just for older adults but for family caregivers as well. So I'm going to have a link to this book on all the areas that I'm publishing this podcast, but I encourage you to get it. All right. The other qualification that Shari has is she is an aging and caregiving resource expert, and I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you all about that. Hi, Shari.
Hi, Esther. It's so nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I love what you do and all the wonderful information that you provide for your listeners and your readers. So thank you for that. I guess going back, my path here to write the book was a little bit of a curvy path. I started in healthcare, working in pharmaceutical sales, and I sold Namenda, which is a medication used for Alzheimer's. And so it taught me a lot about, memory care, memory loss, the brain, how it all works, neurology, and it really piqued my interest. So I ended up starting to work as a senior living sales director at a memory care community, specifically for those residents with dementia.
Okay.
Again, that opened my eyes to a whole new world of senior living and specifically dementia care, which parlayed my main career into working as a senior living specialist within independent living, as well as assisted living, as well as memory care.
Okay.
So I worked with several companies and worked within the communities, working with families one-on-one. I sat across the table from hundreds of families, really guiding them through kind of this crazy maze of senior living and what to do, where to go, what to know. And I'll tell you, they all came in, with, of course, different stories and different needs, but very similar questions and looks of panic in their eyes and looks of exhaustion. And they would all ask, how will I know when it's time for my parent or my spouse? How do I pay for this? How do I know where to go and which type of community, and all of this same questions being asked repeatedly.
Yeah.
And so finally I said, you know what, I need to write a book because it'll save a lot of time here if people
Right.
come in prepared, knowing a little bit more about what's out there, how to talk to your loved one about it, how to prepare, what information to know going forward, even after moving into a senior living community, if that's what you're doing, what are the next steps and what to look for and how to prepare for that as well. So yes, I ended up writing this book, Senior Living Made Simple. And then I also wrote a workbook that goes along with it that actually kind of combines everything I taught in the book, but now it's kind of laid out in checklists and journal prompts to kind of really guide you through the whole process more visually if you're somebody who likes to check off boxes and have lists and just kind of write down their thoughts.
I saw that. I actually just saw that yesterday when I put your book in an article, and when I went to put in the Amazon link for it, I saw the workbook. So I ordered it. I don't know why I didn't see
Oh,
it the first time. So I'm waiting for
that's
that to
okay.
come. But I love that idea because it does require a workbook. You
Mhm.
can, like you said, you can talk about it, but now you need the actual forms, which a checklist basically to
Yeah,
help you go through it. So I love that you put in that extra work to create that workbook. So
yeah.
kudos on that.
Thank you.
That is such a great way. Um, that you got into the whole senior care, working with you were a drug rep for the
Mhm.
medication for Alzheimer's. And I think it's so true what you said initially is that it opened up a whole new world because unless you're in it, unless you see it either as a healthcare provider or, someone who, I don't know, goes into nursing homes for any reason or any facility that has that, or if you have a family member, unless you
Mhm.
actually see it, it's very foreign and you can't
I
imagine it.
exactly,
You know,
exactly. I was gonna say, I've had so many families come to me and they'll be like, "Yeah, I drove past this senior living community thousands of times on my way to work and my way home. Never noticed it. And now that I'm looking for, I have a need, I have a loved one who is aging and may need this. Now I see it every day. And now I see all the other ones all around, town. And it's so true. Until you actually have to, involve yourself in helping an aging loved one with whatever they're going to do in their later years for care, you don't think about it. So it's no wonder, a lot of people just don't have the information readily available to them. And this book and workbook kind of helps with that a little bit.
Right. And it's not something that you hear every day or taught every day or it's
Yeah.
nothing like that. It's an
Yeah.
as needed basis, which is unfortunate because it
Mhm.
really does take preparation to do it correctly. I talk a lot about aging in place, but to me, aging in place isn't necessarily aging in your home. It's
Mhm.
just aging in a living spaces that are safe and allow you to be as independent as possible. Doesn't matter
Right.
where it is. It's
Correct.
just, it has to be congruent to your status,
Exactly.
not status, but your condition or your abilities or inabilities. It has to match that in order to keep you safe and independent as much
Correct.
as possible. That's
Mhm.
the whole game.
And
Um, can you walk us through the simple method?
yeah,
I know you were really smart in S.I.M.P.L.E, S period I am. So I think can you walk us through that?
absolutely. Yeah. So, well, like you said, the home, we all strive to stay at our home, for as long as we can in our house. But sometimes the very, very best thing for us is not to stay in our home. Maybe it's not going to be safe. Maybe it's not going to be cost effective to bring all the help in. Maybe and probably it is really important to have a lot more social interaction. And when you're isolated in your home, it's difficult to do that. It's difficult to, if you're no longer driving to get anywhere. And so there's so many different reasons why you might, choose to go into senior living community versus stay at home. And we can get into that later too. But in terms of your question, in terms of the simple method, it's sort of a framework for families to work with either before they get involved with all of this, just to be prepared, and then during it as well, while they're searching and trying to help their loved one. So S is for support. So as we can't do this alone. We need a support system, whether that means friends, other family members, siblings, professionals like geriatric care managers, social workers, all of these people provide kind of a support system for us, because it's just too much to try to take all of it on yourself. So
Sure.
that's us. And by the way, all these letters and their meanings could probably be separate podcasts themselves. I could go on and on, but I'm going to just keep it brief
Okay.
for the sake of this. But I is for information. So there is obviously a ton of information out there, and we want to learn about, what our options are as early as we can, so that we're
Right.
not scrambling, when we're hopefully not in the ER with a loved one at 2 a.m. saying, oh my God, what do I do? Where do I go? What are the options? So information, learning your options are as early as you can of what is available. M is matching, exactly what you were talking about earlier. So matching is making sure that we're finding the right fit, based on not, we're not walking into a community or senior living community and looking and seeing, oh my, this is a beautiful chandelier. This must be the perfect place for me or for my mom.
Right.
It's not about how beautiful the place looks. It's about finding the place that matches. What are your care needs? What, are you a person that likes to be very social and have a huge, building full of people, or are you more quiet and a loner type, and you maybe a boarding care 6-bed situation might be a better fit. Or maybe you want a whole campus, a CCRC, which is, everything from skilled independent nursing all the way down to skilled nursing all in one place. You're also going to be matching to whatever your budget is. I mean, that's a big factor there too. So matching is finding the right fit, because not every community is the same, not every environment is the same, and it has to fit you or your loved one. So P, preparation, kind of goes along with information, but preparation is getting everything in order.
Yeah.
From your financial documents, your loved ones' financial documents, your legal documents, who's power of attorney, what are end of life wishes. Um, all of those types of documents need to be in order. You don't want to be searching for your mom's long-term care insurance documents in her basement in some random box, when you're needing it. Just get ahead of it and know that, what's there, and what's usable and what you still need. Okay, L is kind of the emotional letter of the S.I.M.P.L.E method. L is for letting go, and it's twofold. One side of that is the guilt. Let's let go of the guilt. I know it's easier said than done, but let's try, because we're not super people. We, oftentimes, especially in the sandwich generation, you've got your job, you've got your kids, and now you've got your aging parents.
Right.
And it's a lot, and it's
Right.
stressful, and it's exhausting. So let go of that feeling like you have to do it all, and you have to do it all perfectly, because it's a little messy, and that's okay. So, let yourself go a little with that. The other side of it is letting go of things, possessions,
Each one.
right? So it's okay to let go of the china that we've had for 50 years, or the antique table that, is lovely, but it's not going to fit in your new senior living apartment, right?
Right.
Your 600 square foot place or whatever it may be. And you can't take everything with you all over. The thing to think about is your safety and the environment, and your quality of life
Mm-hmm.
versus the things.
Mm-hmm.
Even your house, it's just, you may be home but not in your house.
Right.
um
Right.
it doesn't need to be that specific house. So let go of the things. And then finally, we have E, which is for engagement. So making sure, whether you are, visiting a loved one in a senior living community or wherever they may be, to engage with them, to, focus on making sure that you or they are finding purpose every day and are productive, and that you are connecting with others, and just finding a really good quality of life wherever you are. But just senior living is not just about getting meals and medications. It's about really enjoying your life and making the most of it. This is our fourth quarter, right? This is like we've lived our whole beautiful lives, and now we have this part of our lives where we're older, but it doesn't mean we have to give up on all the enjoyable things that happen in our lives. It's a time to even learn, continue learning who we are, just making the most of every day. And so that's it. I mean, the method's very simple, kind of by design, but
Mhm.
it's a really nice roadmap so that hopefully this whole process isn't as chaotic and emotional, and you can kind of approach everything with a little bit more peace of mind and just confidence overall.
I love that. And I think that, for both the older adults and their families, I think that that's exactly what they need.
Yeah.
They need that roadmap. And I love how you broke it down into that simple method and then assigned, those phrases to each of the letter, because I think each one of those is absolutely, it's exactly what I've seen also as a therapist working in, I worked in head injury, so that included Alzheimer's and dementia and everything else having to do with neurological issues. And I, like you, I saw all of that angst in the
Yeah.
families and
Yeah.
in the patients as well.
Yeah.
I guess she wants something here.
That's so cute.
And in the patients as well. So I think, what do you see as, well, first I want to ask you, do you, because what I'm seeing now is that because seniors are getting older, so much older than they used to decades ago, it seems that, yeah, there is that sandwich generation where you're taking care of your children, your spouse, your aging parents, whatever, all of that. But at the same time, I also see seniors caring for seniors,
Hmm.
children in their 70s and 80s caring for parents at 100 and plus. My
Yeah.
own mom-in-law lived to 102, and her children are in their late 70s. So do you see that, and does that change the dynamic in any way of guilt and letting go? Does that make it easier or harder for them?
No, it doesn't. I mean, I think it's the same for no matter what age you are, no matter what you're dealing with in your life, because you want to make sure that your loved one is happy. I mean, you want the best for them, of course.
Yeah.
So there's always this unknowingness of like, okay, am I making the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? Are they gonna be okay? Are they gonna be happy? There's so many questions you ask yourself. It's very hard to know if you're making the right choices, if you're the one that's guiding your loved one, um, no matter what age you are, honestly.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking, and so what are some of the common misconceptions that you hear from families about this whole process?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say one of them is that well, first of all, I hear a lot of times terminology that I'm like, don't say that. Because I'll hear nursing home. There are nursing homes. So when we're talking about assisted living or senior living, I
Right,
wouldn't put nursing home in that box
right.
necessarily. That's more of a if you're really needing long-term kind of physical care where you're using possibly Medicare or Medicaid, and it's a whole other thing. So let's not call it a facility. Let's not call it a an old folks home. Let's call it what it is. It's either assisted living or I like calling it a community
Okay,
because it really is about community. It's about being within, a group of like-minded people who you can share time with if you want, or you can head back to your private apartment if that's kind of, the situation you're in the environment you're in. But yeah, we don't want to scare people off by saying, these kind of very cold institutional sounding names. Our
Right.
parents, that's what they remember
Oh,
seeing,
yeah,
right? Those like
absolutely.
long dark hallways with like lined with wheelchairs of people just like totally out of it with, drooling. I mean, that's not the picture we want to, give
Right,
to them when we talk about this. So we want to talk about it with community and uplifting words.
right.
Um,
And a
so
lot of them
yes.
are that way. A lot of them are,
Yeah,
wonderful places to be. And I think when people walk into them, they're surprised at,
absolutely. And what's there. I would always suggest, if you have somebody a parent, who's reluctant or resistant, just take them, just be like, hey, do you want to go get lunch? And go to one of these communities. They'll let you just come and visit and have lunch most of the time.
Mhm.
You don't even, no tour, just no pressure. Just, hey, let's go have lunch. And then afterwards be like, yeah, this was a community, this is what it's like, after having a lovely lunch and maybe meeting some other residents. It just sort of opens the door to the idea that there is, something really cool out there for them potentially. So we
Right,
don't want to lump it all together because there's so many different types of senior living. There's independent living where you don't need necessarily to have any, physical needs met, but you want to be in a community setting and you don't want to deal with your house anymore and the cooking and the cleaning, right? Then
right.
you have your assisted living where you need a little bit more care, either standby assistance or hands-on care with like showering and dressing, etc. You've got your memory care communities, or sometimes they're within the assisted living communities, where if you have dementia or mild cognitive impairment, that's the best place for you to be. Continuing care, which is that whole campus style that I shared. There's boarding care homes for just 6 individual bedrooms. There's skilled nursing, there's rehab. So there's so many different places and they all serve a different purpose. So we want families to understand there's a lot of different options that can potentially meet their needs. And then I would say one other misconception is that moving to a community means you're losing independence.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
I I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen the exact opposite happen,
Right,
because now they're not necessarily relying on their adult children for rides,
right.
or help with meals or reminders for medications, or any of those things. So, I've had so many residents in the past of communities tell me like it's a cruise ship on land, but better food and no seasickness. And I mean, it doesn't sound like losing independence, to me when I hear that. And I just think that you just have so many more things at your fingertips to do and to learn, and all these opportunities that you gain when you would move into a community or senior living kind of environment.
It's so true. I hear that as well from friends and family that they think of assisted living facilities as you move in and you never leave.
Yeah,
That's not the
yeah,
case at all.
not jail.
You can even have your car there, if
Of
you can still
course,
drive, you have your car, you can go out.
yeah,
It's an apartment. It's
it
an
is.
apartment inside a community. And like you
Yep.
said, whether it's independent living, assisted, you have meals, you have activities, you have whatever.
Hmm.
Um, it really is. And
Yeah.
it is funny. And I agree with you. I think visiting those places, be it for lunch or activities or visiting a friend who's there or a relative, I think
Hmm.
it really helps to ease that
Definitely.
fear of this foreign place to go to. And yeah, you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. How do you talk to the children about um, or the family? It doesn't have to be the children, actually, about when it's time. How do you bring that, or
Yeah.
how do you help
Um,
them with that decision?
yeah, it's a difficult thing. I'm not gonna lie. It's not gonna be always easy. Sometimes you have to plant a seed. Um, when you're talking to a loved one about moving or changing their environment, and then continue with that, let it bloom, let it simmer in their heads a little bit. But things to look for, and the reason you would be talking to a parent or a loved one, they are having falls, or injuries from, or random bruises from, things maybe they're not even telling you they're falling, but falls. Maybe they're missing their medications, or you're getting a call from their doctor saying, your mom didn't show up for her appointment 3 times in a row. Like, so now, they're missing doctor's appointments and need more help and guidance there.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not eating well because now they're eating like microwave food every day and missing meals and not really wanting to cook for themselves. So they just don't really eat, you're noticing weight loss. You're noticing there's isolation. They're withdrawing from activities. Maybe there's some mild cognitive impairment, which would probably, make them feel like they can't really be out and about in that normal ways because they're
Yeah.
starting to lose their cognition and, maybe judgment. So there's also, say you go over to their house and you're noticing an interesting odor or a mess in their house and, a tripping hazard. Maybe, they're definitely needing a walker and they're not using one. And now there's a big risk of them falling in the household, which is obviously, as we know, one of the major causes of, hospitalizations for older adults,
Right.
is falling. So if you, I mean, use your guts, right? If you're laying awake at night and you're worried that your loved one is unsafe in some way that I just mentioned, and or if you're spending your time, all of your time, like helping them with all of these things, and you don't necessarily know how or can't provide all of that assistance because of your time limitations, then that's a very, very strong sign that it's time to consider other options.
Yeah. I find I have a very good friend whose father had was showing signs of dementia. And, being someone who worked in that field for so long, I mentioned it to her during a holiday dinner. Her father was saying things. And so I mentioned to her, I said, has your dad gone for any evaluation or anything for any cognitive issues? I didn't say the word dementia, because you never know.
You don't,
But
yeah,
yeah, I said if for any cognitive issues, because he's asking all these, strange questions. And she was so angry at me for mentioning that. And there's nothing wrong with him. So
yeah,
I didn't say anything else because I knew that she wasn't ready to hear that or see that or whatever. And it wasn't until years later when all these things that you mentioned started happening or were happening so frequently that she realized she didn't have much of a choice. But
yeah.
it is difficult to hit when you hit that wall. I wonder do you know? I mean, how do you deal with that? Do you back off like I did, or is there a better way to handle that?
I think, you back off initially, but then you keep at it. You got to keep kind of like talking about it, but not in a way that you're, controlling, or, saying, oh, you have to do this. It's, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I more talk about like how do you talk about with your older loved one versus like a friend, but it's the same idea. Like you want to kind of reintroduce the subject and speak of it from like a place of love, and caring of saying, what do you think would be the best possible solution, if you or your father started to, fall a lot, or what do you think he would be more comfortable in a place where they can provide, 3 meals a day, and do you think that he might need, maybe somebody to be observing him, like 24/7, like just kind of
yeah,
make suggestions, to help guide them, and to just again plant the seed, get them thinking about it. And then you can go to step 2, which is let's go have lunch, or let's go visit our friends here at this place, and so
yeah,
you kind of just slowly work at it from different angles, but just know that it's not going to just happen all at once for them to
Right. One
understand.
conversation isn't going to do it.
Yeah, so do it as far ahead as possible as you can. Don't wait till the crisis happens. You want to wait, you want to do it ahead of time, which is part of my simple method, just that planning and preparation. And so you don't end up, just scrambling and then having to find something at the last second, which could be the wrong, environment for you or them.
Right.
And then you've got to, figure it all out again. So,
Exactly. I mean,
yeah,
it's so much stress, so much more stressful that way
it
when you
is.
do have to do it at the last minute. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Um, you're in a lot of these communities. Do you notice that there's been any change or increase in how technology is being used in these places?
Oh,
Maybe not just
absolutely.
the residents, but or maybe both the residents and the building itself. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's technology has come a long way. And we have the environment of a senior living or even in a house, we have, things that remind you to take your medications now, which are wonderful, and full detection devices.
Mm-hmm.
In several places I've been in, especially in the memory care section.
Mm-hmm.
They have, these cameras that aren't cameras, but they detect falls and then they can alert the staff. There's GPS enabled, watches or wristbands or um, little pendants that the residents can wear. So if they were to wander around, perhaps then you know where they are.
Right.
There's a lot of in the home, there's smart home systems that
Mhm.
monitor, movement, alert caregivers. You can obviously it's old school, but you got your emergency little button that you can wear that can, if you're at the house, that can
Sure.
alert 911.
It's funny to
Um,
think that that's old school,
I know.
but it
Compared
is.
to what they have now, it
I
is,
know.
but it's the same idea.
Right.
Um, and also technology is great because it can give seniors independence while, it just provides peace of mind of families, especially if you're long distance.
Yeah.
So like if you're a daughter living in another state, you can potentially get alerts if your mom misses medication one day or hasn't moved around that much that day. So
Exactly.
you can kind of keep tabs. And also long distance, you have now, Zoom and you've got your all your different things on your phone where you can talk to each other, FaceTime, so you can see each other, and that's important too. Maybe you
Yeah.
set up a weekly kind of phone FaceTime with your loved one and
Right.
use that time to go over documents, use that time to like get a look at what's going on in their home, behind them if you haven't been able to visit, um or even just see how they're doing, physically. But so technologies, it's wonderful. It's not a replacement for human connection, I will say. It's definitely a supplemental tool to
Right.
enhance, safety and independence. It does not replace care per
No.
se, but it's definitely helpful.
Yeah, the robots are not here yet.
No. Although I hear a lot about that happening in senior living communities,
Yeah, it
having
is.
robots.
It,
Uh,
it
it's
is.
scary. I don't know about that. We'll
Scary.
see.
I know. They're not here yet. No Rosie the robot as of yet. It's true. It's true. Yeah, there's this wonderful lamp. It's called Nobi, Nobi, and it's an overhead lamp, but it's almost like a combination of an Alexa device and a fall alert device, and a lamp as well, a light as
Wow,
well. And I think it's
fabulous.
in Europe. It's from the Netherlands, and I believe it's from the Netherlands. But it's such a wonderful tool because it's not intrusive. It doesn't look
Yeah,
like a fall detection or an Alexa device
just
that
a
you can
lamp.
use your voice to talk to. And
That's
I like
awesome.
the Alexa Echo Show because you use that as a
Yeah,
FaceTime because you can use your voice to just connect with someone
whoever.
instead of
And
having to
it's
pitch it.
yeah, to press anything. It's so funny. I think I have a story in my book about it's a whole chapter about technology, and And I have a funny story in there about the Alexa device and how, because when when you're older and you're not used to all this technology, you don't necessarily know how to use it. And
Right.
so it can be frustrating.
Of course.
You could be talking to Alexa and be like, saying something like, I want to order a pizza. And then it's like, says something back like, so you want to get a ride, get an Uber to the whatever pizza place, and then you get frustrated and you're like, and then throw it across the room, right? So we want to make sure that if our loved one has a device like that they know how to use it properly,
Yes.
or especially if they have dementia or memory impairment, that they have someone around them, staff member, that can always help with it and guide them, so they don't get
Exactly,
frustrated.
exactly. My mom-in-law was in her 90s when her children bought her an Alexa device, and mostly just to listen to music. And so
Mm,
she asked it to play a particular song, but it did play the song, but not from the person that she wanted it from, the singer or band or whatever it was.
yeah.
So, because she couldn't hear very well, it was on very loud. So I'm on the phone with her and I can hear it playing. And I'm like, you can turn it off. And she's going, stop. I said, no, you have to say Alexa, then stop. And then she would go, Allie, stop. No, not Allie, Alexa. And she was like, shut up.
It's a comedy show. I'm
It's a
telling you,
comedy
I've
show.
seen this so many times. It's
It was
hilarious.
so funny. I mean, I wish I could have videotaped that because
Yeah.
it was like an SNL skit or something. It was pretty funny. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So what is your perspective, or how do you see senior living industry evolving? I mean,
Hmm.
I love the senior living industry in the Netherlands, where they make
Mm,
the communities just look like streets, and
I
they have a
love
little
it.
grocery store in there, and they little cafes to make it look like what these residents grew up in their villages and towns.
Yeah.
And I wish we would integrate that here, but
You and me both. Oh, I
no, they're
love
so
that method.
beautiful over there.
It
And
is. I'm hoping they integrate something like that in the States as well. They
I know
need it.
it's been, forever. And then they also have this program where they house college students, and the college students don't pay for the housing, maybe the food, I don't know, but in exchange, they help out in the community. And I love that integration of young and old, and it
I love
seems
it.
more normal,
Intergenerational, yeah. And I do think a
intergenerational.
lot of senior living communities do a lot of more intergenerational programming now, and they
Good.
bring the kids in, they do little shows, they have kids help out, and I think it's so wonderful for both the seniors and the children to have that exposure. It really, and they have like, pet therapy now and all. But that's what I was going to say. I think that what's exciting now about senior living, and I mean, I wish we had what they have in the Netherlands, but
Yeah.
for what we have anyway, I really do think that there is a shift toward focusing on like living and
Yeah.
quality of life versus just getting cared for,
Yeah.
just focusing on getting your meds and your help with your showers. Now there's a lot of communities that offer a lot more wellness programs. There's lifelong learning. There's, like I said, intergenerational activities. There's creative engagement. So you can actually pick up new skills or old skills that maybe you haven't done in forever by taking a painting class or a pottery
Yeah.
class, or it's not just bingo anymore.
I
There's
know.
a whole range, and most communities now have gyms and they have salons and they have everything you need to really maintain your full holistic wellness. Not all of them have this, but I
Yeah.
think a majority, or there more and more are communities that provide these things. And so it just gives you the opportunity to have a comfortable fourth quarter as well as a productive fourth quarter, and you're continuing to learn, which is really, and you're connecting with people, and that's really what life's about, I think.
It is. It really is. I love that quote, to live an ordinary, extraordinary life. And that's really what it is. You just want to continue doing that. And I
Yes.
love that that so many more places are doing that.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that, and I think, the boomers, with 10,000 plus people a day turning 65 until 2030, and then the next generation,
Hmm.
taking over that. I mean, it's just, I'm glad that it's changing and it's getting
Yes.
better.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
what do you think is the most important question that a family should ask, when they're visiting a senior community? I mean, I know you said about it clicking with the person, it matching the person, and
Yeah.
that's true. Do you think that's the most important, or is there another?
Um, well, I think there's so many questions to ask. I do have a full list in the book and a full checklist in the workbook because there's a lot.
Yeah.
But there's some red flags you want to, what you want to notice when you're touring. Like I said, you don't want to just look at the chandeliers and the paint colors, right?
Right.
That's not as important. It's lovely, aesthetically, you want to live somewhere nice, right? But I always tell people, when they're so focused on what does the bedroom look like and how many square feet and does it have this amazing view and all that. It's great, but it's not, you need to look at very specific things like staff interactions, what observe, like, do they know their residents' names? Do they look disengaged or rushed? What is the turnover? Are they happy being there? Because that says a lot, how long the staff typically will stay on their job. It is a very high turnover kind of career, unfortunately, when you're a caregiver or a nurse working within assisted living or communities. But there's definitely a lot of communities out there that maintain their staff, which says a lot
Hmm.
about the quality of the care and the company.
Hmm.
You want to look at the engagement. Are the residents sitting there just watching TV in like a great room or something all day long, or are there actual activities happening?
Yeah.
Um, and maybe there is a great calendar that they have posted with all these activities, but is it real? Are they really doing it?
Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
are they giving what they're saying? So make sure you're checking that. Obviously, when you walk into a community, you want to smell it.
Yeah.
And if you're smelling odors that are not good, that's telling you maybe that their cleanliness factor isn't there. So definitely, and don't just smell in the lobby, because maybe they have a very overpowering smell of freshly baked cookies right there.
Right.
Go over by the elevator banks, go, upstairs in the hallways. Like, what does it smell like? Is it clean? Are there tripping hazards? All of those things. Definitely sit down and have lunch or dinner. Um,
You
find
want to test the meal.
Test the food. Is it appetizing? Ask the residents, do they love the food? Also, ask the residents, are they happy?
Yeah.
There were several places that I was at, communities that I was at, where I would just get this sense of just happiness. When I walked in the door, I would see residents smiling. They
Wow.
would come up to me and be like, I love this place. I wouldn't even have to ask. And
Wow.
that's a great sign, wonderful sign. But then I've been in others where it's dark. There's just people sitting around looking very sad, not really engaged. And just,
Yeah.
when you walk into a place, you're going to get a vibe,
Yeah.
whatever, that may be. And you got to go with your gut and
Yeah.
feel the vibe and see, all those things are really, really important things. There's way more things to look for, but that's a really good start.
And I think that's where the whole idea of planning really helps out, because now you have the time to look at several
Absolutely.
places versus doing everything at the very last second, at the very last
Yeah.
minute. You have one day to get your parent from a hospital to a community, and you can't. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
how many
And you,
times have we seen that? I've seen that so
oh,
many times.
so many times. And then this huge emergency situation, and it's
Yes.
very stressful. I
Yes.
would also suggest if you're visiting communities, only do one visit a day because
Oh,
they
why?
do, yeah, they tend to blend in all the information. You're getting all these brochures and you're getting all this information, and every place operates differently and has different qualities. So if you're visiting 3 a day,
Yeah.
I'm just saying you are going to forget. I mean, even if you take detailed notes,
Yeah.
it's still, they're going to blend in together.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exhausting too. So the other really good point I would make is, if you are looking for your loved one, a parent, don't take them initially to your search. So say you're looking at a community, maybe 3 in that week, go on separate days. Or let's say you're visiting 5. Take your top 2 choices, your top 2s that you think are going to match your loved one's needs, and then bring your loved one and have a meal, have lunch,
Okay.
show them around. Because it is very overwhelming for somebody for a senior specifically, to have to look at all these different places, and tour around. It's too much. So just bring them to 2 and let
Okay.
them choose. Let
Okay.
them then say, oh, well, give them that opportunity to make the choice themselves, and give them that power and control, even though that both of those places are going to work well.
Yeah. That's a good tip. That's a very good tip. I hadn't heard that before. I mean, I
Mhm.
guess it's like house hunting. If you go
Yeah,
to look at 5 houses in a day, you can't remember which one is which. And you're
no,
right. Even if you do take notes, they all blend in.
yeah,
Very good information.
yeah.
I can tell very much that you love what you do.
Mhm.
And I mean, obviously, you're making a great impact in your community. So I think that
Thank you.
that's amazing.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Shari. Thank you so much for all of this information. I so look forward to reading through your book. And I mean, I've only glanced through it. I just got it, and I can't wait for the workbook. Um,
Yeah.
but when you buy the book, you need both, right? You can't just get the
Yeah.
workbook.
I mean, I think so. If you want to make your own spreadsheets out of my lists that are in the book, that's fine. But like, I
Yeah.
think it's helpful to have the guide along with it, so you can actually, like, make things happen and put it all into action.
Oh, no, I think the workbook is actually very important.
Hmm.
But I just love the way you write it. It's in large print also, which
Hmm.
I saw, which I think is great. And a
Yeah.
lot of people don't do that. And
And it's a funny book. It's weirdly funny, because I know it's such a heavy topic, but so I try to really, I lighten it up. I put stories in there that are funny.
good.
And I basically, my language and the way I wrote is sort of like I'm talking to a girlfriend over coffee. So
I, I
yeah,
love
I'm not
that.
looking down. I'm just talking, we're just having a conversation about it.
I love that. I do a lot of blogging and writing, and people say, "Oh, I can't write." I said, "Oh, no. If you can talk, you can write. Just
Absolutely.
write like you talk."
Yeah.
And that is what gets going. Sherry, stay on a little bit, but thank you so very much. Thank you, everyone. I am going to have the links to the book and the workbook on in the show notes and in the descriptions on the YouTube
Yeah.
video. And then I'll also be writing a review of the book as well. And I'll have that on the website. And I cannot wait to see everybody again on the next podcast and YouTube videos. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Appreciate your time.
Oh, anytime. Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode of the Senior Safety Advice Podcast, helping you and your loved ones stay safe, independent, and informed. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and share it with others who could benefit. For more expert tips and resources, visit seniorsafetyadvice.com. And remember, staying safe starts with staying informed. Until next time, take care and stay safe.